Hello there. I'm Richard Warner, an acting coach, and this is Michael Dooney, a filmmaker. And we wanted to see, well, I'll start this way. Self-taping is upon us. It's a necessary part of our craft now. So I'm going to ask Michael to give us some tips on how an actor, if they're really serious about it, he or she needs to maybe get together a self-taping sort of kit.
Yes.
Where would you point us? What direction? What kind of elements? What do we need to get ourselves in business?
Sure. So let's start with the kind of bare minimums.
Yeah,
let's
good.
say you're at home and you have a deadline, you don't have time to go out get lights or any fancy equipment, or you're in your hotel room for a job that you're on and you just got a self-tape that's due in 2 hours. What can you do? The first thing you really want to focus on, the two main things are lighting and sound. We have to see you and hear you clearly. You need to assume that every self-tape can go to the director and the producer and the executive producer. You want something where at the very least we can see you and hear you clearly. Some quick ways to do that if you don't have a lot to work with. Find a good window, something that can fill one side of your face, and you can go out to a Target or a Walmart or anywhere like that and get a piece of white cardboard, bounce board, and that will bounce the light, filling the other side of your face. And just like you can see on Richard, you'll get a nice kind of, you can still see the features in this side of his face, but it gives a nice kind of contrast. You can see how shadows hit his face.
And that's just
nice.
a poster board, right?
It's just poster board, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now, let's say you don't have a camera. I've met a couple actors who have a little handy cam that they really like that gets pretty good sound and can adjust to pretty good light, and they just keep it in their car. And whenever they're out, they do it. But let's say you don't have that. So you have an iPhone. All right, what do? It's important that you get it eye level.
Yeah.
You don't want your tape to be looking up at you or down at you, certainly. So, get a stool, stack some books, do whatever you can to get it your eye level. And you can just prop the iPhone up, and they're pretty good for sound. They're not bad. You need to be careful, though, with an iPhone and with a camcorder of your reader. It's going to pick up your reader usually much louder than it will pick you up. And you have a good tip for that.
Yeah, there's a couple things you can do. Obviously, you can ask your reader to just read quietly if they're right by the camera. But if you have some space or distance, have that reader stand the same distance behind the camera as you're standing in front, or even further back.
Yes.
So at least there's some balance to it.
Absolutely.
One thing, isn't it true, Michael, it's getting back to iPhone, you want to have the iPhone this way, right?
Absolutely.
As opposed
Yes.
to this way.
Absolutely.
That's going to give you, why do you do that?
Because that's how movies are shot.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suppose I went to the next level.
Okay.
Suppose I'm home and I really am trying to set up, if you will, my own sort of studio, and I don't have a heck of a lot of money. What would be sort of a mid-range?
So you can get a good lighting set for very cheap now. You want something, however, that is daylight and not tungsten. And what do I mean by that? Daylight is the blue, white, natural light that you see on us right now. Tungsten is more incandescent. It is that yellowish light. And that does weird things to your skin tone. We don't get the best representation. A very important thing, and this is on all levels, is to not have anything distracting in your background or foreground. You need to focus on wearing clothes that are neutral. You need to focus on a background that you pop from and do not blend into. There needs to be a good focus on sound. That can involve, hanging a comforter if you're in your hotel around you, or forming kind of I've seen actors form kind of forts or cocoons to do their auditions in when they're away. But if you have a studio setup, find somewhere quiet. You don't want the person watching it to think about that hiss in the background, or think about how they can't see half your face.
And you can go, it's interesting, you gave me a tip once, is that, if you're really going to go a little upscale, there's all varieties of cameras you can get now that give you really good, you don't need 4K, give you really good fidelity. But if you're really serious about it, want to go to another camera, Canon does refurbished cameras. This is the tip you gave me, and they are quality cameras. You can get them from a lot less price. I think that's if you're really going to go to the high level kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And that would be a tripod and a camera.
Right.
And would you trust the sound you're going to get off of those kind of cameras?
Not necessarily. No. There are some great lavalier mics, which are very similar to these, that are very cheap now. They're as cheap as, I think, $20, but they can plug right into the camera, and you can attach them, and you'll get phenomenal sound.
Well, good, yeah, and then, so a fairly simple process then.
Yeah.
We're probably not going to get it because we just talk about equipment, but I love sometimes they talk to you about how the transfer from my camera to the casting office.
Yes,
what
yes.
that technique is. Another clip, I think.
Right. So an important word to focus on there is compression. You don't want to be sending the casting company these huge 1, 2, 3 gigabyte files. That's going to slow them down.
Okay, so it's sort of in summary, Michael's saying that you can do this at all levels as long as, remember, he said, good sound, good clean sound, so they can see you and hear you. And you can do it, I think, probably for a budget, if you have an iPhone, under $25. And you can then move to something that's a little bit closer to, and again, if you just take a little bit of time and go to one of these online stores and just punch up a lighting kit, I think you'll be stunned at how inexpensive they are. Something that can work for your purposes. So it does question a budget and all that, but really, where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
And I'll say this is that it's here with us, gang. We need to be experts in this, and we need to make it look as professional as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Michael.